Did you ever watch someone finally get to sit back and just be a dad? No headset, no game plan, no scoreboard to dissect, and felt the whole stadium breathe out with him? That was the quiet, weirdly beautiful image from Las Vegas. Deion Sanders, the coach who raised the star and then coached him through every step of his life, watching his son take his first NFL snaps without a clipboard in his hands. Shedeur led the Browns to a 24-10 win over the Raiders in his first start, 11 for 20, 209 yards, a touchdown, and a moment that felt like permission to dream. AP News. The film wasn't flawless. It didn't need to be. Underneath the tidy box score were the nerves and ragged edges you get when a rookie is asked to accelerate through a lifetime of pressure in a single afternoon. What made the difference wasn't flawless quarterbacking. It was timing, trust, and the kind of teammate plays that hide the rookie's mistakes. The Browns' front seven turned the day into a clinic. Pressure, 10 sacks, chaos for Las Vegas's offense, and room for a young passer to breathe. When the defense takes the field like that, a rookie's shaky reads suddenly feel teachable instead of terminal. ClevelandBrowns.com. There were two plays you'll replay because they tell the whole story. First, a designed screen that turned into a 66-yard sprint to the end zone for Dylan Sampson. A touchdown born of precision and then turbocharged by a runner who saw daylight and never pulled the brakes. Second, a 52-yard rollout strike to Isaiah Bond that was as much about pocket movement as it was about arm strength. It unlocked a deep speed the Browns hadn't reliably seen all year and reminded everyone that this kid can fling it when the moment calls. Those plays aren't miracles. They're flashes that tell you a coach can teach structure and a player can supply execution. ClevelandBrowns.com. If you're hunting for a narrative convenience, here's one. Shedeur's first start came with an odd symmetry. He wasn't the first rookie the Browns rolled out this season. Dylan Gabriel had been given first-team reps and then hit the concussion protocol, which opened the door. Shedeur hadn't been the planned understudy in practice all year. That's why this win felt less like triumph and more like a test result, a data point the coaching staff needed. A rookie who hadn't been getting those reps came in and after a week with the ones looked focused enough to convert a lead into a win. For a franchise scraping for answers, that result is currency. AP News. And then there's the human thing that makes sports worth watching. Deion Sanders, who coached Shedeur at Trinity Christian, Jackson State, and Colorado, said something startlingly simple and pure about the experience. I was just in straight dad mode. That line cut through the social media noise. After years of play calling, quarterback coaching, and public performance, he got to sit in a suite, watch his son, and feel something closer to quiet pride than the constant tension of a sideline. It was a reminder that the game is still a human story, with a father who taught his son to throw, and a son doing his best to make the lessons stick on the biggest stage. SI. There was an oddly generous subtext to the moment, too. Raiders owner Mark Davis invited Deion into his suite, a small gesture that turned into a shared human moment across rival lines. Deion publicly thanked Davis. It's a reminder that sometimes the most meaningful gestures in sports happen off the field, where politeness and empathy weigh more than rivalries. In an age when headlines get loudest about drama, that quiet courtesy looked almost revolutionary. Yardbarker. Let's be blunt about the stakes. The Browns are 3-8 and running out of season to hide behind. This wasn't a franchise-altering victory. It was an experiment that worked on Sunday. Kevin Stefanski's choice to give Shedeur a week of first-team reps and then trust him on game day was a calculated gamble, one that bought the team more information than another week of waiting would have. If the rookie takes a step forward in the next outings, the Browns gain clarity. If he stumbles, they've still got data, what to coach, what to scheme, and how aggressively to move in free agency or at the draft table. Either way, sitting on the sidelines and pretending you're not learning is no longer an option. ClevelandBrowns.com. There's a pressure people forget about, the weight of a famous last name. Shedeur came into the league carrying Deion's legacy like an extra uniform. That draws attention, applause, and a pile of expectations that arrive faster than a rookie's progression. The burglary news, the draft slide, the fifth-round tag, all of that is noise that can become a real burden if not handled correctly. But on Sunday, the Sun did something calmer than heroics. He showed signs of processing the pro game, making a couple of throws that mattered, and letting teammates help him when the film got ugly. That's development in action. Yahoo Teitao coaching will matter more than headlines. If Stefanski and his staff turn this into a learning arc, more first-team reps, cleaner footwork drills, progressions that don't require miracles, then the win becomes the first page of a useful notebook. If they treat it like a highlight reel curiosity and snap back to the old scripts, they'll lose the valuable thing they just bought. Empirical evidence that practice plus reps equal progress. The Browns chose the harder route. See it, test it, teach it, which, if you're being honest, is exactly the kind of decision a rebuilding roster needs. ClevelandBrowns.com. Watch the small things next, how the protection slides on stunts, whether the deep looks to Bond become routine rather than surprise, and if Shedeur's timing improves when the structure is predictable. Those tiny fixes are the difference between a rookie's incandescent moment and a rookie who becomes a reliable starter. This isn't a Hollywood script that guarantees a sequel. It's a practical, week-by-week experiment where the coaching staff will measure growth against mistakes and decide which way the franchise leans next spring. ClevelandBrowns.com. The last image is the one you'll take home. Not the stat line, not the highlight reel, not even the locker room smiles, but Deion in a suite, shoulders finally able to untense, saying, "I was just in straight dad mode." Sports love conflict and crescendo. This one offered a quieter climax, a father watching his son take an awkward step toward an independent life. That's the kind of scene that doesn't need a headline to mean something. It means that for one Sunday, the boy made his father proud in the simplest possible way by doing the thing he was taught under pressure and standing up when it mattered. That's a win no box score can fully capture. SI. Funny thing about being the dad of an NFL quarterback. You can try to retire your halftime pep talk, but your heart rarely gets the memo. Deion Sanders spent decades coaching his son at every stop. Trinity Christian, Jackson State, Colorado, and Sunday in Las Vegas was the first time he watched Shedeur play a game without a headset, clipboard, or a coach's checklist in hand. He called it strange and then good and healthy. He said he was in straight dad mode. That line alone tells you everything you need to know. Relief, pride, and a tiny private victory lap that had nothing to do with play calls and everything to do with being a father. The win itself read like a neat subplot. Shedeur Sanders' first NFL start, a 24-10 Cleveland victory over the Raiders, and the kind of moments that bring families to the sideline. But beneath the scoreboard was the bigger story, the quiet, human one. The father who finally got to watch his kid take the field without coaching him through it. Shedeur wasn't perfect. He finished 11 of 20 for 209 yards with 1 touchdown and 1 interception. That stat line is serviceable, not cinematic. What made the day feel larger was the context. The 52-yard bomb to Isaiah Bond that broke a long Browns drought of explosive plays, the screen pass to Dylan Sampson that turned into a 66-yard touchdown, and a calmness in the pocket that said, "I belong here." Those flashes are the kinds of plays that make fans clip highlights and make coaches think, okay, maybe there's something here to develop. Deion watched from a place that reads like a small-town movie beat, the visiting owner's box. Mark Davis of the Raiders offered him a seat, and Deion later thanked him publicly for it. Picture it, a Hall of Famer sitting in the opposing owner's box, watching his son make history. Deion smiled, chuckled, and thanked the Lord on camera. That felt less like PR theater and more like a dad catching his kid's first big league home run from someone else's front row seat. You also felt the history on that field. No Browns quarterback starting his first game since the team's return in 1999 had ever won in his debut. They were 0-17. Shedeur ended that streak. That's not just a quirk of trivia, it's an old, weird burden lifted. For fans who live and breathe franchise lore, that matters. It's a small, meaningful scar that the organization can finally point at and say, we're turning corners. Credit where it's due. Cleveland's defense dominated the day. The front overwhelmed a shaky Raiders line, the team registered a pile of sacks, and Myles Garrett made life miserable. That defensive identity handed Shedeur a shorter field to work with and fewer moments where he had to manufacture magic. But let's not reduce the rookie's day to he just benefited from the defense. He made a couple of throws that required timing, touch, and guts. The 52-yard rollout strike wasn't a prayer, it was placement on the run. The screen that turned into a 66-yarder required vision and timing. Those are quarterback traits, not luck. What's next matters more than the win itself. Kevin Stefanski and the Browns have choices to make. Dillon Gabriel isn't a corpse of an option. He's a rookie who's had his own starts and struggles. But giving Shedeur a real look gives the coaching staff information they didn't have before. One start doesn't crown anyone, but it does give the Browns a legitimate data point. How this kid performs with a week of first-team reps, how he handles pressure, and how his chemistry with teammates grows or stalls when asked to produce consistently. There's also the human lift for Shedeur. Playing his first game with his dad, watching as a fan, not a coach, is a gentle rite of passage. Deion's voice hasn't been absent in the narrative. He's always been loud,